Hey everyone, welcome to the Naz Church Weekly Message Podcast. Here you will listen to the preaching pastors from the Naz in Grove City, Ohio. We pray you are inspired by their teachings.
You can be seated. I want to tell you, before I get started today, that you need to prepare yourself to be amazed at what God can do. You didn't show up today by accident, and God didn't intend for you just to be seated and leave the same way that you came in here today. We are going to confront some things in our lives that God wants to speak into and change to happen. You've already sensed the Holy Spirit today. Our worship team led us into the presence of God. Some of you have already moved to the altars today because you needed to respond to the prompting of the Lord in your life. But I'm going to tell you something today, friends. God has something in store today. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. Do you believe that today? Lord, help those who don't have enough faith. Do you believe that today? Lord, help our unbelief. Believe it today with me. God has something for us today. Don't miss it. Well, we are in the middle of our road to redemption. This is our series that's going to lead us into Good Friday and Easter services. And as I was preparing for this, I felt it heavy on my heart. We are 21 days away from Easter. And as a church, we are going to spend time in prayer and fasting. And we want to invite you to be a part of that. And as a staff, we've already taken those steps to begin our prayer and fasting. And as we do that, we are doing so with anticipatory faith that God is going to show up. And we are going to celebrate life change of baptism on Easter Sunday. But I got to tell you what the Lord told me. He may not wait till Easter. He may not wait till Easter. Some of you may be interrupted today. Pastor Dale started us last week in week 1 on this road. And he talked about how Jesus prepared his disciples for what he was about to do and how he was laying out the next few days, the last few weeks of his time on earth. Jesus has turned his attention to Jerusalem, where he is going to go offer his body as a sacrifice for all of us. And Jesus prepares his disciples and tells them what is about to take place. I hope I prepared you today for what God has in store for us. But how many of you know along a road, along a journey, when you're planning a trip, there's always things that don't go the way you expect them to? How many of you have taken a trip and there's been some unplanned stops, some speed bumps, some hiccups, some halts along the way? Anybody? I remember growing up, my family, we used to join with another few families. Every year we vacationed to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And to do so, we would caravan 4 different vans all the way down. And so our meeting place growing up here in Grove City was the McDonald's on Stringtown Road. And right by the McDonald's, we would catch the on-ramp to I-71 South. So all the families would meet up at McDonald's. Everyone had to go inside and go to the restroom. It was required. And then when we went inside, we would get our breakfast. We would grab our breakfast, and then all 4 families would circle out in the parking lot of McDonald's, and we would pray that the Lord would protect our travels and trips to vacation. After year after year after year, if we did this, you think we would learn that our routine always led to some unplanned and unexpected detours along the way. You see, we would go from having breakfast at McDonald's, we would get in the cars, we'd head 2-3 hours crossing over the rushing waters of the Ohio River, entering into West Virginia, and other waters started rushing. Breakfast made a return. And if you've ever driven through the hills of West Virginia, you know that an exit or a pit stop is not always accessible. As you're swerving through the road, the chance to pull over and address the unexpected urge was not always afforded to the kid in the back seat of the van. And I found, time and time again, what we jokingly called our West Virginia rest stops were me with my McDonald's cup in the back of the van. And in that moment, I'm asking my dad, please don't hit a bump, please don't swerve, change lanes. And I would always warn my family with the same prayer of, Lord, make it stop before it reaches the top. Wendy's didn't offer breakfast back then, but I appreciated a biggie-sized cup at that point. How many of you know that there's always detours and stops of the unexpected, the unplanned along the way? Well, I want to share with you as we are moving on this road toward Easter that we are going to see that this journey brings up some unplanned, unexpected moments for Jesus and his followers. We're going to look at Mark chapter 9 today. And in verses 1 through 13, they have this incredible faith moment. Jesus takes his 3 closest disciples, his closest friends, they call it the inner circle, Peter, James, and John, and they're on top of this mountain, and it's called the Transfiguration. This moment occurs where Jesus is revealed in his glorified state, and Moses and Elijah appear before all of them. And Jesus has this conversation with them. And what a moment that would have been for Jesus' 3 closest friends to get to see Jesus in all of his glory in that moment, speaking to these heroes of faith. I often wondered how he recognized who they were. They weren't pictures. Maybe they were just really good drawings. Or maybe they introduced themselves. I don't know. But what a faith-growing moment that would be. For the men that they had heard and grown up hearing stories about, the leadership that they had shown, their faith that they had been taught as being brought up as Jewish young men, to then see these heroes of the faith in front of them speaking to Jesus, I'm sure their faith was just growing exponentially. And as they make their way down from the top of the mountain in verse 13, we find our story today is going to pick up in verse 14, that they're confronted by the rest of the disciples and a crowd had grown around them. Take a look at the screen to see this story.
When they came to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd around them and the teachers of the law arguing with them. As soon as all the people saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with wonder and ran to greet him. "What are you arguing with them about?" he asked. A man in the crowd answered, "Teacher, I brought you my son, who is possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not." "You unbelieving generation," Jesus replied. "How long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." So they brought him. When the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into a convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked the boy's father, "How long has he been like this?" "From childhood," he answered. "It has often thrown him into fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." "If you can," said Jesus, "everything is possible for one who believes." Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." When Jesus saw that a crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the impure spirit. "You deaf and mute spirit," he said, "I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." The spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently, and came out. The boy looked so much like a corpse that many said, "He's dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him to his feet, and he stood up. After Jesus had gone indoors, his disciples asked him privately, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" He replied, "This kind can come out only by prayer."
Here we have a story of Jesus coming down from this incredible faith moment. And many of you will know when you have a faith-filled interaction, there's often some trouble that's going to come your way. This is what happens to Jesus. He is confronted by a father who didn't know what to do. And by now, the story of Jesus' abilities had grown. The story of Jesus turning the water into wine had spread from village to village. We heard of Jesus taking 5 loaves and 2 fish from a young boy's lunch and feeding the multitudes. Thousands were able to eat. They heard the story of even more intense moments as Jesus confronted a man that was living in a cemetery. And that man who was known to have cut himself and caused pain and was later confronted by Jesus only to be now seen as one with a clear mind, clean, clothed, and healed. This news reached this desperate father. And so out of his place of need, he took his son to where the group of people were gathering and following Jesus. He shows up to the group only to find out that Jesus was not present. Jesus was not with them, but the father trying to explain to anyone who could help what challenges his son faced, the circumstances that they found themselves in. Desperate to the crowd, asked for help, but because they were not obedient to Jesus' instructions, they could not help them. How many of you know that unless Jesus is present, the change that you seek in your life will not happen? The touch that you need to alter your circumstance will not take place unless Jesus is obeyed. Jesus makes his way down from the mountain and he has this father brought to him. Father starts to explain the situation and what the commotion was all about. Join me in Mark chapter 9, if you will, please, verses 18 and 19. I'm going to use the NLT version. It'll come up on the screen if you're watching online, but follow along if you're here in person. The father starts telling Jesus what's going on. He says, and whenever this spirit seizes him, it throws him violently to the ground. Then he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast out the evil spirit, but they couldn't do it. Jesus said to them, you faithless people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy to me. How many times when things come up, problems that arise in our life, do we seek help from other people around us? We seek help from our friends. We ask for advice, and we find that maybe it doesn't work out as you were told it was going to. Maybe you have bigger issues, so you seek out a larger source of knowledge. You seek maybe the best experts that mankind has to offer, but looking back on it, what you were told from them, the knowledge that they possessed didn't change your circumstances. Maybe for some of you, you've gone to the extremes. You've gone to get advice from this place. Maybe you've gone over here to get a consultation. Maybe you set up a preliminary evaluation at this place. Maybe you went to this special location or office because you needed a second opinion, because the opinion you originally got from the person you were told to trust didn't work out. The things that they told you that there was nothing there, it'll improve over time. The circumstances hadn't changed. Your life hadn't improved, so you seek a second opinion to get a different result, and it didn't change, and it makes you question, should I seek a third? Is there really a solution out there for me? How many times have you done this and felt let down by the world? You've searched the internet, you've scoured overseas for other test results. You've watched the infomercials, you've found the five-star experts, you've trusted the online reviews of people who seem to have faced the same circumstances you have. You've gone through different methods, you've attempted different fasts, you've done all of these things ever before you try to reach out to Jesus. That's where this father found himself in Mark chapter 9. This father had searched the world over. He ran into a crowd and would ask anyone for advice if they would give a listening ear. He sought them for help. He sought their insight, their experiences, their knowledge, and they weren't able to come through for him. He was let down yet again. And so when he finally meets Jesus, he tells them, I've tried everything. I've asked everybody. Nothing will help my son. The father was weary. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you can relate. You're weary. He was wandering. He was helpless. He was hopeless. His faith had literally dwindled. His son was mute, and he couldn't converse with his son anymore. He was a sad father. I want to talk quickly to some sad parents. The Lord showed me as I was studying this that we have a lot of loved ones, children, people that we're responsible for, people that we care about, that have the same condition as this child, that they're mute. They don't speak. He started showing me that there are some of you who have adult children that you're estranged from. They don't answer your phone calls. They don't respond to your text messages. They haven't come visit you for weeks or months. You haven't spent time together face to face in a long time. Some of you, your relationship with your adult children has become mute. And it crushes your heart. You're heartbroken and sad about it because you think, how can this be? I raised this young man. I raised this child from birth. I changed their diapers. I took care of them. I coddled them. I looked out for them. In all of this, how could we have ever found our place now where we don't even interact with each other? Lord started showing me that this isn't just with adult children, that there's teenage children, that despite the efforts you have and the questions you pose, they don't talk to you. They won't open up to you. You see the pain that they have. You know the life that they're going through. You understand the challenges. It doesn't seem that distant to you from when you face this on your own. But for you now, dealing with your own children, you just can't seem to break through the silence. You feel this longing that they want to open up to you. You just can't get the conversation started. Some of us, it's a mute child of our young children, our young kids who act up, act out, say things they shouldn't, even at a younger age. We can't get them to obey, to listen, to speak kindly to others, to their siblings. You feel all the time you're saying, use nice words. Where did they pick up on this so fast? You feel like your own children are mute to the things of God. They won't sing, they won't speak and pray out loud, they won't raise their hands in worship, they won't verbalize anything to you. Then I thought of even the youngest child, what it was like to have a baby that was sick, and all they did was cry. They couldn't speak. They weren't of age yet. They couldn't express themselves. And how helpless of a feeling it is when you're holding this young child and you're not able to converse and find out what's going wrong. I think we have a lot of relationships where we're dealing with mute children. Let me tell you something. In the same way, this demon spirit tried to possess this young boy, causing him to be mute and inflicting pain on him. The same enemy wants to attack our relationships with our children. He wants to steal the timely phone calls. He wants your phone call to go to voicemail. He doesn't want you to listen to it. He wants you to think that they're too busy to talk to you, that they don't have time for you. They've got problems of their own. They don't need to hear yours. He wants to silence that for you. The enemy wants to silence our time with our teens, our dinner time conversations, our car rides, our moments where we feel like we have them alone and we just can't start up the conversation. You can't get any more out of them than that their day was good. And you go on just turning up the radio and not listening anymore. The enemy wants your young child, your grade school child, to spend time rather talking to their screens than talking to their parents. He's pleased at what the screen will do to disconnect you from them. The enemy wants to discourage that newborn parent's family. The newborn parents who are up all night, fatigued from the day, sleepless through the evening, not able to solve the crying tears of their young child, make you feel like you're inadequate. The attempts of the enemy do not change from the time of Mark chapter 9 till now. Do you know that? He wants to silence our relationships, especially with those closest to us. He wants to silence our marriages where we walk by and we don't even talk to each other, won't even look at each other, won't acknowledge what's going on. Some of you today, I want you to know that it's time to address the silence. God's desire is not for you to stay on mute. I want to encourage some of you today, like this sad father, to step up and take your child to Jesus. Bring your child to Jesus. When you feel like this relationship is beyond repair, or you're hoping that it's just a phase that we'll move past this, bring your child to Jesus. It's the best thing you can do. I'll never forget what it was like holding my pregnant wife as her shoulders bounced, sobbing at an altar. That week we had found out that our son, through an ultrasound appointment, was told that he was not growing inside of her womb. At about 20 weeks old, we were told that he was not growing, he was not developing. And you know the awkwardness of when somebody is doing an ultrasound and they turn the screen away from you, as if my education understood the black and white thing I was looking at. She turned the screen away from us, she searched some more, and she says, I'm gonna go get the doctor. And the doctor comes in and he just splits the silence of the room and tells you that your child is not growing, is not developing. If this continues, he's gonna be born, but he will not make it past the birth. That news will shake anybody's faith. We were told that they believed he had something called in utero growth restriction. And it would cause him to have some challenges throughout the rest of his life. If he did make it, that he most likely would have physical and mental difficulties. And I saw my wife's heart just break right before my eyes. And that next Sunday, even though we were the pastors and she was the pastor's wife, she was at the altar and her tears flooded the cushion of that altar because all she knew to do with the news that she couldn't comprehend or change was bring her unborn son to Jesus. Our lives changed. Our road now had multiple interruptions. 3 times a week, we went into the doctor's office to get scans, to measurements. 3 times a week, we walk out there. You get some of the nastiest looks from people when you throw those pictures away. But we had like dozens. We threw them away, and people just stare at you like, they don't love that kid. But they don't know that before every appointment, the same tears flooded my wife's steering wheel as she cried and prayed that the Lord would move, that the measurements would change, that the results of our son's life would be different. I share this story with you because faith comes from hearing. Romans 10:17. I want you to hear the miracles of Jesus when he has shown up and all we could do was bring our children to him. We were out of control. Come here, Garen. Now, he's going to have the height of a point guard, but the specs weren't really helping out too well. But now you've heard a miracle and you've seen one. Thank you, buddy. Let me tell you something. Some of you can relate to the desperation of a father wanting to see change happen in your world. And I want to encourage your faith today and say that the same God, the same Jesus who confronted this unexpected moment and brought healing to this man's son is the same God that's bringing healing time and time again. And maybe for some of you today, you showed up on a Sunday with an interruption to the start of your week or to your weekend to learn the truth and experience healing for yourself today. I believe that God has that intended to extend it out to some of you today as well. Join me in Mark 9:22. The Father goes on to say that the Spirit often throws him into the fire and into the water, trying to kill him. Have mercy on us and help us if you can. Verse 23, this is so good. Jesus responds, what do you mean if I can? Jesus asked, anything is possible. Did we just sing that? Anything is possible if a person believes. The father instantly cried out, I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. How many times have we seen God show up? How many times have we seen God work and move in our lives? How many times in this room has God shown himself time and time again to be faithful and to do miraculous things? The lifestyle that was supposed to leave you on the streets, the Lord spoke into your life, and you're now living for him. The addiction that was supposed to hold you down and prevent you from having a family is a chain that was broken because God spoke into your life. The miracle healing that you needed to see your child raised and new was one that God provided just in the midst in the right time. I can look around this room, and I'm not calling out names, but people know who I'm talking about. You know the circumstances I'm pointing to because God has shown himself time and time again. But how easy is it for us when something new happens, when a new difficulty, a new problem, a new diagnosis that we did not plan arises, and when that happens, doubt creeps right back in, doesn't it? Man, how quickly we get discouraged. How quickly we become uncertain. How are we going to handle this? What are we going to do? We have a long list of times when God has shown up, when we've turned to him, put our faith in him. He's been faithful to heal us. From the little moments when our child was sick to the time when you were injured and you needed physical therapy to get back on your feet, to the moments when you prayed for a loved one. We forget that the same God who has worked and moved on your behalf time and time again is the same God who is not surprised by the new problem or diagnosis that you've just been dealt. It's the same God who has been working around the world and continues to work still today. Your faith comes from hearing and hearing the word of God. You're hearing truth today. Some of you are confronting things you don't know how you ever got yourself in this situation. The Lord is not surprised. And he has a road for you to experience his healing. You need to come before him today. He is calling out to you today. I want to share with you another story because oftentimes we hear stories and we think, well, if the Lord did it for them, he can do it for me. There was another little girl named Brielle. Brielle started kindergarten just this past fall. Like all parents, her mom had the nervousness of sending her child off to a new experience, being separated from their little one for long periods of time, and the little one meeting new people, right? And seeing the world in a different perspective. But she was excited for her daughter to take this step forward. Brielle herself found a kindergarten class, and unfortunately, in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was another child in her class who was dealing with his own challenges and difficulties. He had his own bouts of anger and rage, and unfortunately, while Brielle was standing in line listening to her teacher, this young man turned and just started wailing on her. And before they could pull the boy off, and Brielle found herself just ducked and covered, and she was hurt. She was beaten up on, and she was traumatized. Her mom got the phone call, and none of us would ever anticipate what that call would be like. Got the call from the school and found that this wasn't something she could move past. And in fact, Brielle wouldn't open up and talk about it. She wouldn't share what was going on. And so her mom sought out help. She sought out doctors. She sought out people to get care. Brielle was given the diagnosis or title of being a selective mute. She no longer talked. She wouldn't talk at home. She wouldn't talk at school. She was just traumatized and silent. Days turned to weeks, turned to months. And of all things, her mom signed her up before this incident happened at school for upward cheerleading at the NAS. Brielle signed up for upward cheerleading. Her mom wanted her to be a part of it, so she brought her to practices, and Brielle wasn't speaking, she wasn't sharing. She met her coach, and they had a bond, and the coach started building a relationship with the family, wanting to invest in Brielle. She went over and started making the bows for all the girls in their cheer squad at their house. They made little book bag straps that they would take their stuff with them to the games. And as that was happening for Brielle, she started to warm up to her coach a little bit more. That the coach noticed in the first 2 months of practices, Brielle hadn't said a word, but she would just mouth the words and do the motions. Got a picture of Brielle coming up on the screen. Cute little girl. It was Valentine's Day. They had a game. Brielle, for the first time, ran up to her coach when she saw her, gave her a hug, leaned in and whispered to her coach. The first time the coach had heard her voice in almost 3 months. Through the teachings of Scripture and the cheers of upward that they taught, those were some of the first words that she would start to whisper. The speech therapist told her mom, give her a book to read, let her go home to her stuffed animals or pets, and just tell her to read like she were the teacher to the class. Through the crack in the door, the mom caught a video of Brielle reading out loud and got to hear her daughter's voice again for the first time. She recorded it, she sent it to the therapist, and the therapist said, this is remarkable. It's a miracle that she's speaking again. Not just that she's speaking, but she's confident to raise her voice. And what's even more impressive is the book that she's reading is above her kindergarten grade level. And they gave her some tests. They found that she was doing mathematics above her kindergarten grade level. And they said, you know what? We don't have to keep Brielle in the same kindergarten class anymore where she doesn't feel safe. She's graduated now to another class. We're going to get her another teacher. She is above this level. And what the enemy had intended to traumatize and silence her came this miracle that she has moved on to better and better things, that her mind was still processing, working, and we get to welcome Brielle to Grove City Christian School next year. I share these things with you to tell you miracles are still happening. The mute are learning to speak again, and they're speaking the good things of God that are taught even in an upward cheer class. God is still at work. Look at verse 26 with me. Jesus confronts the spirit. It says, then the spirit screamed and threw the boy into another violent convulsion and left him. The boy appeared to be dead. A murmur ran through the crowd as people said, he's dead. But Jesus took him by the hand, helped him to his feet, and he stood up. Afterwards, when Jesus was alone in the house with his disciples, they asked him, why couldn't we cast out that evil spirit? Jesus replied, this kind can be cast out only by prayer. Other versions will say only by prayer and fasting. Don't miss what Jesus did here. Jesus didn't tell the dad, thanks for showing up. I need you to set an appointment with my disciples. Jesus doesn't look at the child and admonish him and say, you're acting so poorly. You're out of control in public. What's wrong with you? Jesus doesn't speak to the Father or the Son. When Jesus wants to bring healing, he speaks directly to the issue. He speaks to the spirit. The attempts of the enemy to destroy the future of this young boy. Jesus speaks directly to the issue. Some of you today have your own problems that you've carried around. Some of you have been silent about the things that you're dealing with. Some of you need healing in your life because you've just pushed aside the pain too long and accepted it as your normal. Some of you have allowed relationships to go mute, to say that my child's just going through a phase, or this is just who they're going to be, or this is just how we get along, to keep the peace. But there's anything but peace in your life. Some of you today need to have a moment where Jesus speaks directly to the issue. And when he does, you can experience healing that can only be found from a loving God. Will you stand with me this morning? Some of you can relate to the young boy and say, Pastor John, I've got some things that need to be addressed in my life. I've walked around with this diagnosis. I've sought help. I've sought doctors. I've sought visitation after visit, but I have yet to seek Jesus. Man, some of you need to take the first step and bring that before the Lord. Some of you are like the Father, and you've carried this issue around. You've sought answers and help, but you have yet to bring it before Jesus and lay it at the altar at his feet and let him do what only he can do. Some of you need to carry that issue forward. Some of you relate to the people in the crowd. You know people that are suffering. You know people that are hurting. You know people that need healing in their life. And you need to be the one to make a way for them to get to Jesus. Last week we passed out these cards. It says, I'm praying for someone. And it's perforated. You were supposed to take one and write it on the top. And today, if you didn't get one of these cards, or if you didn't bring it back, we've got some at the altars for you. I want to invite all of you to come forward because you're thinking of someone right now that needs healing. They need physical healing. Their marriage needs healing. Their kids need a better, brighter future. They need to experience Jesus. I want you to come forward today. You can write this name down, tear it off, and leave one at the altar. We as your church are going to rally around and do this with you. But I'm going to invite my prayer team up. Invite some of our pastoral staff to come forward. Some of you, your road today is going to be interrupted with Jesus. Some of you have been friends with people for decades, and you've yet to bring up Jesus in those conversations. Some of your best friends in life you have known for ages, and you know they're hurting because they reach out to you first. They call you, they text you first. They look for your advice, and you've not brought up Jesus in that conversation. Some of you, today's the day where you say, I've got what can change your circumstances. Some of you are going to step out in faith and come forward today and do that. Some of you may need physical healing, and I've been praying and fasting as well as some of our other staff, and we want to pray for you today and speak Jesus into your circumstance. If you need that today, you can come forward. Some of you are sitting back, and the truth is you're not moved by this message today because you're not as desperate as the Father was. You're sitting back there today thinking, I can do this. It'll work itself out. That person will find Jesus. My marriage will get better. We've got an appointment. We have time set up. My child will go through this phase. They'll get turned around. Everyone comes back to their faith. They just need to grow up. Some of you need to shut up and let Jesus speak. Some of you need to step out on your faith. Some of you haven't seen the miraculous happen in the instantaneous moment. If Jesus can heal a young boy and rid him of a demon in an instant, do you not think that your friend whose name you write on this card can't be up here in 3 weeks on Easter Sunday being baptized? The same God that moved and worked in Mark, who turned his attention to the needs and healing, is the same God that wants to show up in your world, in your life today. Don't miss him. Don't miss his moment. Don't walk on by and leave today without the healing that's being offered to you.
Thanks for joining us for this week's podcast. Stay connected with us at thenaz.church.